Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope you're having a great day. My name is Dave and this is Steve Edwards, and we're here to talk all about mules and donkeys for the next hour, and very excited to have you join us, very excited to be here and just talk about equine. It's going to be a lot of fun. I've got a lot of good questions, but first, Steve, how you doing?
Got another good day started. I just had new exhaust put on my 1949 Mercury, and boy, she sounds mellow now.
That's awesome. You got your shirt on right there.
Hot Rod Church, yep.
I like that,
yep.
All right. Now, don't you go, isn't there like a hot rod show out there in Queen Valley that you all go to that you show your cot at? Or is it kind of like a weekend thing?
Well, there's one this Friday night where the hot rodders all meet. It's just a bunch of old fat guys like me. And we talk about what we used to do. We talk about our hot rods and stuff. And then there's another show this Saturday that I'm going to go to. It's kind of unique. I used to go to mule shows, and now I go to hot rod shows. And believe me, if I can still go to a mule show, I'll do it. We got one coming up here in Indiana, the Hoosier.
Yeah, the Hoosier one.
I just got an invitation to be in Oklahoma in July. So we'll see how things go, you know.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know that the Hoosier one came about because there were folks actually writing the event organizers saying, hey, I don't know what you're doing, but y'all need to get Steve Edwards up there. Y'all don't have anybody for the mule and the donkey, and they came a-calling, so that was pretty cool.
Oh, it was really awesome, and they got a whole new venue. Some of the folks that have been there before are still there, but they got a whole new, easier to work with venue. You know, that's everybody there volunteers. And it is an awesome, awesome expo that folks, they get lots of knowledge. This year, a couple of my favorite people, Pat Pirelli is going to be there, and Ken McNabb is going to be there. And Ken and I, hopefully, we're going to do Cowboy Church together. We're kind of putting that together, but Ken McNabb is one awesome trainer.
That's awesome. That's real good. Well, folks, the way that this works is that Steve and I have a list of questions that have been sent in from folks just like you, and so we're going to go through those one by one, and then if you have any questions, you can put them in the comments section at any point in time, and I'll get to those. And then finally, the one request that we have for y'all beyond asking questions and engaging in the comment section, the one request that we have is that you share this broadcast on your page. And so as you're looking right there at the Facebook page, at the feed, you should see a little button, a little icon that says share. If you tap on that and then go ahead and just put a real quick message saying, hey, I love watching Steve and Dave talk mules, or whatever it is you want to say, and then click share, that's actually going to help us get more and more people engaged with their mules. It's going to help us get more and more people understanding how to communicate with their mules, get much more enjoyment, get much more pleasure, and much more long life and a better quality of life with their animal too. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. And the first question that I have, and we get this a lot, it has to do with fitting for rope halters. And a lot of times we'll have, a lot of folks have donkeys and mules that are kind of in the middle, but there are quite a few out there who have animals who are on the short side and then animals who are on the long side when we talk about head size. So can you talk to me a little bit about fitting the rope halter to a smaller mule or donkey? Is that something that they should be concerned about? And we'll talk specifically about yours, although folks have some of their own that they like using. But then is there problems fitting a rope halter to a larger mule or donkey? So you want to go ahead and answer that question there?
Sure, you bet. Well, my halters are adjustable, so that's one of the big things about the halters. Now, we have just I got an order in right now for some extra large halters, and that'll be more for like your draft animals. So if you have a draft animal that's Percheron bred or Belgian bred, something like that, or just a mule that has a pretty good sized head, I'm going to have them halters here shortly. So here's what you do. You measure from the nostril, just above the nostril, and take a piece of string, and then just kind of nice and quiet and gentle go right on up and go right in behind the ear. So from the nostril to the ear, and measure that length. And that'll give me a pretty good idea how to fit your mule. Now, if you want to use your own halters, absolutely, just go ahead and put them in some fabric softener, let them set overnight, and then you'll need a pair of pliers, and you'll need kind of a sharp pick, like a Phillips screwdriver, and to open them up. Now, the downside of this, though, Dave, is when folks do use their own halter, by the time they spend a couple hours trying to get things undone, they could have already ordered my halter and it would be on their front door, So it's kind of tough. And the downside, too, is when you're using the pliers and you're trying to get that all worked out, you tend to break some of the fibers within the halter, so it may not be as durable as you would like to have it.
That's a good answer there, and we're going to put some more information up on the website. We're always adding more and more information about that and so many other things. We've been talking about a bit article that we've got coming through, and Steve is in the final review of that. But 2 or 3 weeks ago, we spent a good portion of the conversation all on bits. So if you have any other questions about rope halters, about sizing, or any other tack, you can always go check out the website, and there's more information there. I want to give a shout out to some of the folks that we've got who have chimed in. Dorsey chimes in, Julie Smith chimes in, we've got Diane Morris Neely saying hello, we've got let's see here, Tommy Payne, we have Natasha who joined us last week or the week before. We've got Dave Marlowe, Tracy Foley, Haley Williams saying, sorry we couldn't be on here last week and we had church and the power was out. So, well, it's good to have you here this week, Haley. We've got Ahmed Juma, let's see, Kayla Gooner, lots of folks here, D. Witt, Cowboyin, let's see, let me read that there. What's it say? It says Cal Boykin Forcier. Let's see, lots of folks today. Edie Witt, Lori Lawrence, and Judy Luce. So lots of people hanging out with us, spending time. Isn't that awesome to hear, Steve?
Oh yeah, I love it. When I have my clinics, we'll usually have 10, 15 people there, and they ask questions and do things. And here, I can do almost the same thing in a short time, and help a lot of people out. I'm having fun helping people just right here on the phone or right here on this live stream. It's great. It's really super.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So we'll go here and we're going to ask Dorsey Crow's question. And she says, hey, Steve, this is Dorsey Crow from Winchester, Kentucky. Hello. Mm-hmm. Yep. I'm thinking of restarting my mule's foundation training. I had spoken with you a few weeks ago about spurring my mule and him throwing me, and I'm thinking it's starting at square one. He's going to be going on 6. What do you think? That's a really good question.
Absolutely. It's not so much starting over again on the ground, but folks, one of the things that I really try to say that you need to do, and that is a tune-up. Just like you would tune up your car or your truck or your lawnmower, a new spark plug and some new filters make a big difference, all right? So a big difference in your mule is halter foundation training. But to come along on and have them go in circles. Remember, your mules and your donkeys care more about their nose than anything else. You'll get better compliance, better communication using the rope halter and the come-along hitch, especially the come-along hitch. The nice thing about the come-along hitch is so much more refined when it comes down to the way you touch it. And always, just ask for small things. Have them go in circles, have them do figure eights and around. But the good thing about doing groundwork is you're doing it from their nose, and they see you, they understand. You're more like a one-on-one. So absolutely, get in there and build a foundation. Now, you can go and you can build a whole new foundation. 6 months of training, 4 to 6 hours a week. And you can take and do your come-along work, your rope halter work, and then you can take your rope halter and put it into a surcingle, and then you can put your bridle with the surcingle and get them soft. You folks know I don't do lateral flexions. I don't bend them around to the left and to the right. All that does is tighten neck muscles on a mule. But what I do is get them balanced and framed up. So, you know, building a new foundation, absolutely. We got lots of articles and videos and this sort of thing that can help you out, Dorsey. Do that.
That's good. So I just put a link in the comment section there. We had some folks out a couple years ago to the ranch. They were doing some private instruction, and we had basically recorded the entire time that you had spent there together. You were teaching them how to catch the mule on their term, on the owner's terms, not the mule's terms. How to catch that mule, how to put the rope halter on, how to properly adjust the rope halter, how to use the come along rope, how to lots of folks will call it desensitizing, but that's not what we were doing. We were halter training them using some old pallets as bridges to get them to go walk over those pallets and go in and out of barrels. So I put that in there. You think that would be a good place for folks to kind of look and get a start and see what they ought to be doing?
You bet. You know, that was really a good time with them folks. The mules were new to them. They wasn't quite sure. She was pretty good horseman, and he was kind of learning along. And so them folks really tried their hearts out, and they had some nice mules, and they did very good. They learned how to approach the animals, and that's really important because remember, we're a predator animal, and they're a prey animal. So approach, when you approach the shoulder, is the best way to approach, not the nose, not the hip. So the shoulder's a neutral ground, and they learn that. And boy, that husband and wife couple, they really had a couple nice mules, and they did a nice job of learning. Yeah. They did really good.
Yeah, they were great learners. So one thing that I want to ask real quick, I've heard you talk about this. We've talked on the phone, and then I've heard it come up just very briefly in a past couple live streams. But ground foundation ground training, foundation start. I'm saying it wrong. Like I'm getting my words all twisted. What am I trying to say?
Ground foundation training.
There we go. There's something that you said to me where you said, hey, no, it's just meant for more of a tune-up. And that was a little bit of a head tilt to me because I thought, oh, no, I thought we were starting things out. So can you talk to me a little bit about the difference between that methodology for starting versus that methodology for tune-up and what it is you were referring to there?
Okay, so when you start one, that's usually one that hasn't had any halter work. They don't know much about ground things. And you do ground foundation and you build a foundation from there. Or then you have one that has some bad habits of pulling you around and takes you mule skiing. So then you want to build a new foundation. And then you have your mules that are got a nice mind to them. They've done things pretty good, and they've been setting in the corral or they've been setting in a pasture for a couple, 2 or 3 weeks, or maybe even a month. Well, those are tune-ups. That's a tune-up. So you see there's a difference. You take one that doesn't know anything and you build a foundation. And then you take one that's a problem animal and then you build a new foundation. So then you start them all over again and then you go into your tune-ups.
Okay. That really helps clarify. I appreciate that a lot. The next question that we have here comes in from Facebook, and it's from Julie Smith. She says, hi, Steve. My mule has decided she doesn't want to keep going on the trail and stops dead in her tracks. Nothing seems to get her to go until her buddy goes in front and goes forward. Then he wants to stop a little ways up. After this behavior, I tried riding barrels with her, and she threw me. Do you have any insight? Let's see. Someone I know thinks she stopped because she wants to take a break, and she threw me because her rear cinch was too tight. What do you think?
Wrong, and wrong. She didn't throw you because the rear cinch is too tight. If anything at all, I bet when you were running the barrels, did you have your breeching on? Because here's what happens. People think I'll take the breeching on because it's flat ground and it's just going to be for a few seconds. Now guess what? The saddle goes forward and hits the scapula. Now the scapula's been banged. Now the mule goes, ow, that hurt. And wham, you hit the ground because you didn't have your breeching on. Because maybe you had your front cinch too tight, or because you didn't have your back cinch tight enough. But folks, barrel racing, just because it's flat ground. Pole bending, just because it's flat ground. Any type of gymnastics like that, gymkhana work as we call it in the equine world, put the breeching on. You watch them, you go to Bishop, you go to any of these things, where's that saddle setting? On top of the scapula. You're riding a mule, has a donkey bone structure, and since it has a donkey bone structure, that saddle's going forward. So Julie, you can tell me it's okay, say it, I didn't have my breeching on. Yep. All right, so now let's go back to the other part. The mule doesn't want to go forward and will stop when another mule comes around, then they'll kind of go. All right, well, they're thinking where I stopped right here is going to be a comfortable place. I'm going to enjoy it here. All right, make that spot uncomfortable. Use your hands and use your legs. Use your legs and go right, left with your legs. So your calf first, then your heel, then your spur. Your hands are going to think snug rein in each hand, right and left, because now you're training. So now you're going to use direct reining. The only time you're going to use direct reining with two hands is when you are training. You should never do this all day long. Only when you're going to train. So the mule says, okay, I'm comfortable right here. I'm enjoying, yeah, I like this spot right here. And all of a sudden, you gig them with your calves first. Oh, it just got uncomfortable here. I don't know that I like this spot. And they kind of maybe move just a dab. Well, then tap them with the side of your stirrups. Bang. Whoop, my comfortable spot just got uncomfortable here. So when they go forward, you're no longer tapping them with your legs. So they understand that going forward is going to be the most comfortable place. Setting right here where they want to stop is going to be an uncomfortable spot. Comfortable, uncomfortable, part of the rules of communicating with a mule or a donkey.
That's really good. Let's see here. The next question that I have comes from Diane Morris. She sent us a message, and she also chimed here on Facebook comments. She says, "Hi Steve, would you suggest a mule as a child's first equine? Thanks, Diane."
I'll always choose a mule for a first equine for everybody. One thing that really bothers me that I see a lot of, and I'm sorry to say it, even people that I know very well, their kids don't have helmets on. Oh, I was dumb. I did it. I'm guilty. But if you ever see me do the demonstration of taking a watermelon and I'm just standing on top of a little step and I drop it and what it does to that head, same thing to that kid's head. So let's go back. You're going to put him in the saddle. Number one, don't put stirrups on. More kids have been dragged because they got hung up in the stirrups. My kids, they rode their first couple years, no stirrups. They were able to hold on to the horn. They were able to use their legs to know how to stay in place. As they progress, as they get balance and this sort of thing, then add the stirrups. Or just put them in a saddle and where the stirrups are way down away from them. Put them in a set of bucking rolls. A set of bucking rolls will make the saddle smaller. You don't want to have them, their little tiny rear ends on a great big saddle. They're going to bounce all around. So you want them snug in that saddle. And a pair of bucking rolls sure be handy for you.
I've heard you say multiple times that that the stirrups, that's where a lot of injuries can come from, even to the point where when adults are getting into the saddle, they want to make sure to grab upon the pommel, and then I think it's the mane, and pull yourselves up there rather than put your foot in the stirrup and kind of step yourself up on there. Why is that?
Well, because it's so easy to roll the saddle. I mean, what the heck? You're putting 200 pounds just on one side, and that's pretty tough, especially if you're riding with a wool pad and you're not riding with a breeching, you're not riding with a tight cinch. All those help. When you see Toby climb in the saddle there on my website, he's 340 pounds last I remember, and I know he was getting rid of some of that. But anyway, he could climb in that saddle, and that saddle stay right in place. And as you see, Judy Luce, she's on here watching. Judy came here to the ranch, and I adjusted their saddles, and I got them adjusted correctly. It's important that the stirrups are in the correct place. You don't want a stirrup to be looking like this. You want it to be here. So when you climb on, you slide your foot right into the stirrup. But if the stirrup's here and you reach down to adjust the stirrup, when you're off balance and the mule moves, boom, you hit the ground. Did Julie get back to us yet? Tell us if her breeching was on or not.
I haven't seen it. Let me take a quick look here. Let's see. Nope, nothing yet from her. She may not be watching live right now.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm looking for this video here with Toby, and I'll go ahead and I'll put that in the comment section so folks can see. And there's another video. I think it might be it's either Eric Lynn or Eric Parmer. I think
Eric
showing
Palmer.
that no cinches on. The saddle stays in place. He gets in properly, and the saddle doesn't move an inch, and it's pretty incredible. The video is titled, "Can Your Saddle Do This?"
Yeah. He got kind of tired of a lot of Facebook people saying, no way Steve's saddle can fit all mules, and no way can it work. And he shows them. I mean, this guy is a professional trainer, for heaven's sakes, you know?
Yeah, real good guy. Has helped out a lot of folks, and yeah, we certainly love having that video there. Okay, so the next question that I've got for you here is, let's see, where'd it go? This one's from CJ, and he says, I think you're going to like this one, Steve. He says, I've trained about 200 horses and ponies, but no mules, no donkeys. There is a mammoth at the rescue where I started volunteering, ran away and bucked someone, but previously to this was really good on trails. Anything you would recommend to help me find a forever home for this mammoth? And I think that's partially corrective work, things like that.
Yeah. There's a lot of people out there giving these animals that have had a tough time in new homes and this sort of thing. I really try to stay away from anybody going to a particular person to buy a mule or anything like that. So, the best thing you can do is start a new foundation with that mule. Most likely they got bucked off. Again, I got to go back to, they probably didn't have a breeching, and they probably didn't have a rear cinch up, and they were most likely using a wool pad, and they were most likely using a horse saddle. Folks, mules and donkeys don't want to waste their time bucking or running off. Get this in your head. You can see on my video foundation colt starting. These 5 people have never been on a colt before. And I show them ABCs. You don't see these colts making a bobble. Everything goes good. Why? They're comfortable. The saddle's in the right place. The breeching's in the right place. And you're riding a mule. You have to have things correct. Believe me, you can reinvent the wheel if you want. I've already had the broken bones. So, give it a try.
Very good. Okay, let's see here. We got some more folks tuning in. We've got, let's see, Sundance Kid. We've got Amy Patterson-Gann. All of them chiming in. Amy's from Missouri saying howdy from Missouri. And Sundance Kid is saying exactly right. A saddle that will roll will get you a broke leg real quick.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's inevitable, You see so many people riding without a rear cinch. Horses especially. Come on, folks. That rear cinch has a reason. That rear D-ring has a reason, and that's to keep the saddle from cantilevering. Mm-hmm. That's what happens. And so when you go to climb on, it's like having 2 bias tires and 2 radio tires. It's going to go down the road, but it's going to go down the road crooked.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so we've got a question here from Nicole. Nicole says, she left a comment here on Facebook. She says, hey, Steve, I have a yearling, John, who I let out of his pasture to naturally desensitize himself to all kinds of obstacles around my property. Recently, I have discovered that he has figured out how to open the gate and let himself out of pasture to explore. However, the last time I came home, he was out of pasture. The gate was shut. Is it possible that not only he can open the gate to come out, but he has figured out how to close the the gate too. So there's a couple things. Let's talk about a couple things there. Steve, what do you want to start with?
Well, you know, number one, you know, folks, I don't care about this desensitizing thing. One of my favorite stories is Jeanette Carlson, the DJ Bar Ranch in Montana. Awesome mules, got an awesome jack. She turns her colts out loose out there. They see rattlesnakes, they see elk, they see deer, they cross water and all that. But as soon as you put a person with them, it's like they've never seen it before. You cannot desensitize them to all this stuff. So that's that part. The other part, I don't think the mule's open and closing. I think the mule most likely is either going over top of the fence and getting out or crawling under. Uncle Bud used to have a pair of mules, and he thought, well, to keep them from jumping over the fence, he tied their halters together. And you know what? They learned how to crawl underneath the fence, working with each other, even though they were tied together.
So, and then what's the last piece? I feel like we wind up talking about feed just about every week, but keeping your mule or your donkey out to pasture. You want to say anything about that?
Yeah, you know, folks, pastures are, I know y'all got lots of free grass, and I'm getting a lot of grass here myself now in Arizona because of all that. But the downside is they cannot physically handle all that feed. They do not need to be chewing all the time. They do not need to be eating all the time. This is the modern mule, the modern horse. These things stand more than they've been ridden. Now, if you're riding them every day and you're switching them out, sure, you bet you can put them on a pasture and some of that. But we're not doing that, folks. We're not doing that. And they cannot stand the prosperity. And all, especially if you get your spring grasses, heavy in carbohydrates, you got a good possibility of foundering your mule. And they will founder. And the donkeys will founder, you know.
Yeah, very good. So next question we have here. We got a lot of questions today. I was looking through Facebook ahead of time. I keep a list that I read from here, that everything that comes in from the website and whatnot. But a lot of questions folks posted on comments in Facebook. It's getting to be springtime, and folks are getting ready to get out there and start riding again as soon as the weather starts to get a little bit nicer. But Natasha says, recently we've been needing to put shoes on my mule as we move to a rocky area. When the farrier trims my mule's feet and pulls shoes, he is fine and stands perfectly. When shoes are being put on, he leans back and rears. Nothing too insane, but enough to make me want to correct the behavior to keep everyone safe. Would you recommend the come-along hitch to correct this?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The mule's just using that for an excuse. You know, absolutely use the come-along hitch. That's one thing. Other thing, don't put shoes on your mules just because of the rocks. Put shoes on your mules to keep their heels spread. The problem is, you look at all these mules, the majority of them have crooked legs. Why is that? Because their heels are contracted and are coming in. When you have a contracted heel, you have a little tiny frog. When you have a little tiny frog, you don't have the blood flow up and down the leg. Don't just shoe them because of rocks, folks. Shoe them because you're trying to repair the problem of a contracted heel. And yes, when you shoe them for the rocks, that's good for them. Absolutely.
So what would you say, let's talk about shoes for a second. What would you say to someone who says, hey, Steve, I've gone my whole life. I never shoot them. I don't need to shoe them. What would you say there? Because I know that that's an area where you differ, and folks will hear things from different sides. How would you engage that conversation?
Well, I would say, all right, let's pick up the foot. Everybody has told me that. Everybody has told me that. We picked up the foot, and the foot, the shoe, the hoof was contracted, either on one side or both sides. And I say, look, you don't have the blood flow that you could have because you got a little tiny frog. And I'm telling you, David, and everybody out there in Facebook land, everybody that tells me you don't need it, you pick up on that foot, and you will see a contracted heel. And if you don't want to pick up the foot, just get back and look. How crooked are the legs? Crooked legs, they're not going to be crooked if they are balanced correctly and if the frog and the heels are correct.
That's good. Okay, so the next question here is from Sandy, and Sandy emails in and says, I ride my mule with an English saddle because I do endurance riding. I currently use a Crupper, but I worry about the weight on the tail. Is there a britchin option for a regular English saddle, or should I stick with the Crupper? What would you have to say there?
I'd rather see you not even ride the mule as to use a Crupper. You've heard me say this story before, but in 1 year, I had 3 people call me up and wanted Crupper rings put on their saddles. And I said I wouldn't do it. I'd rather not even sell you a saddle. And they all said, all right, we'll just buy the saddle. And every one of them, the 3 people, 2 guys that have been doing it pretty much all their life, riding with a Crupper. And then one lady raised her mule and was riding a Crupper. All 3 of them called me, said they had to put their mules down because they broke the tail. That is only bone, folks. That's all. Now, the downside of the English saddle is it only has 1 cinch. And so because it only has the 1 cinch, the saddle goes forward. And just go out there and look, folks. Try to put your hand up underneath there on top of the scapula and turn the head. Every time you do, it's going to pinch your hand. And eventually when the top of the fibers, I was just talking with a veterinarian in Kansas yesterday, and she was a veterinarian. She hadn't thought about this part, just above the scapula. And you know, we need to do this show, Dave, where I show the scapula of an antelope, and the top of the scapula, there's a little bit of a fiber across the top, and it's it's not much thicker than this paper, really.
Oh, you've shown me. It's super thin.
Yes.
Very thin.
And it gets bent over. And I had one veterinarian tells me that when they start tripping a lot, it's not only bent over, but it's got a possibility of breaking, you know. So here we are. We're wanting to ride English because we're riding cross country and we're doing this sort of thing, and we're riding that saddle because it's small. What about the mule? What about the mule? Is it more important? And I know some people are going to get mad at me about this, but I care about the mules. Is it more important for you to do the ride and have the saddle sitting on top of the scapula? Or is it more important to have your mule comfortable and have the saddle back 2 inches behind the scapula? You cannot ride on a mule with 1 cinch, folks. I can show you time and time again how that saddle goes forward. If you look on the internet, Dave, it is frustrating for me to see it. Saddle on top of saddle is sitting on top of the scapula. And people just think, oh, he's not showing any pain. Well, a lot of them, well, every mule, will brace into pain. Some of them go to bucking. They've had enough. But most of them will brace into it and they start tripping. They think it's shoes. It's not, you know. Yeah. So, you know, you cannot put a breeching on one of those saddles, folks. I've tried all kinds of ways. I've bought saddles, tried to make them work. I've designed some saddles. I've spent a lot of money trying to go the English line and the people who want to ride that type of a saddle. And I just, for the comfort of the animal, I couldn't get it done, you know. I don't know anybody that's out there that's got it. You know, they say they do, but all you got to do is send me a picture, and I'll tell you the saddle's sitting on top of the scapula. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good, and the idea of the breeching and always riding with the breeching, I know that's foreign to some. The only reason I know about it now is because I've heard you have to share over and over, and I know that you're happy to do it because folks are just hopping in right now where they're at in the journey, and so that's why we do these live streams. That's why we answer a lot of the same questions multiple times, is because folks are just hopping in, and that's why we love doing it. That's why we show up every single week. But it is one of those deals where there are certain things that are just different for the mule and different for the donkey, and folks who are coming over from the horse world, it's a little bit of a head tilt at first, but when you start putting all the pieces together and you start seeing how it works, and that's kind of what we've been trying to do here, and that's what you do a great job of, Steve, is putting all the pieces together. It starts to make more and more sense, and they actually start sending you email messages and pictures and text messages saying, "Oh my goodness, what a world of a difference those things make." So, so glad that we're able to continue on doing that here. Let's see here. Tommy Payne sends a message in. It's a little bit long, so I'm going to read through it here, and then we'll see what you have to say. So Tommy says, Steve, I've got 2 Percheron. I couldn't say it last week. Percheron. Two Percheron mules that I have owned about 1 and 1.5 years. They are 10 and 11 years old. They're brothers. Previous owner had them for all their life pulling a wagon. Have been great until recently. One did a small kick at me on 2 different occasions. I called and talked to you about him a week ago. You said he has lost respect for my authority in the food chain. You told me to hit him in the rib cage and with a cane, and he did it, and it hasn't happened. So we'll have to talk about that there. I did take them off a 20-acre pasture and have kept them in a 12-by-12 stall with access to a 12-by-30 paddock since talking to you. My question, does keeping them confined instill in them that you are more in control than being in free range? Should there ever be let out to graze green grass? So we talked about that a little bit already. We'll talk about it a little bit here more. Let's start with the conversation that you had and the advice that you gave him, and then get to his question.
Okay, now, I am not advocating pounding on these mules, folks. I'm not. But got to remember that when a mule wants you to stop what you're doing, let's just say you're another animal, you're another mule, and you're coming in closer. They're going to pin their ears, say, don't come no closer. Then the other mule keeps on coming. Then they're going to pin their ears, swish their tail. They're saying, don't come no closer. Then what happens? They spin and they kick. So these mules understand ask, tell, demand. The only reason I told this guy was to take your cane or some kind of long strap and pop him in the ribs is watch the mule's ears. If the mule pinned his ears, he's saying, I want you to be out of my space. And hey, that mule's got no right to tell you to do that. So with the come along rope in your left hand and your quirk in your right hand, you give them a bump and give them a little swat on the ribs, and that's going to change them. They're going to tell you ahead of time they're going to kick you by pinning their ears and swishing their tail. Watch for those signs.
Very good. And then the pasture piece, just to summarize there. So, Tommy, if you pick up right here, because I left a comment for you. But what Steve had said previously, and Steve, correct me if I say anything incorrect, but was the idea that, hey, if you're riding them every single day and you're really working them, there might be some opportunity, some okay reason to let them out to pasture. But for the most part, keep them confined because they don't need that amount of food. They don't need that amount of prosperity, and they'll wind up getting colic when they start overeating. And you want to have them, put away so they see you as the herd leader. Correct?
That's right. They don't need you out there. They got their food, they got their water, they got their buddies. They'll put you on ignore, and I've proved that time and time again, especially at my class at Pierce College in L.A. But here's the thing. One thing you want to think about here is if you do have the pasture and you are riding them a lot, you can put them out there all night, let them feed all night during the 8-hour time frame, bring them in the morning, maybe with a little bit of grain in a bucket or something like that, and then let them stand stalled all day long. That way they get used to a process. And you can, they'll be ready for you they'll be meeting you at the gate to go for rides and this sort of thing. All of our mules are in a 10-by-20 stalls when we're here training. And we feed them all at night. We don't feed them at different meal times. Unless I'm feeding a colt, then I keep feeding in front of him all the time and when I turn him back in. But every morning, Dave, these mules are at the gate, ready to go to work. Hey, good to see you, and this sort of thing, and away we go. When you're on the pasture, I got everything I need out here.
Yep, very good. So Natasha was watching when we answered her question, and she goes, "Thanks, Steve. I figured he was just being a turd. I agree with the heels. The rocks were literally shaving his heel down, and the shoes have set him to where he needs to be consistently. Thank you for your time and passion for these animals." So that was real nice to hear from Natasha there. Let's see here. What do we have next? Okay, Dave Marlowe. Question here. My mule put the bit under her tongue. I've tried a long spoon type bit that extends about 2.5 inches back into her mouth. No go. Is it hackamore time?
No, it is. She's trying to tell you you not only have the wrong bit in their mouth, most likely, but you got the bit too high. Teach them to pack the bit. Reach down, pick up the bit, and put it where they like it. I've done lots of training sessions with it. I'm sure Dave could probably send you a little shot of me doing it, but use a snaffle bit to start with. Did he say John Mule or Molly Mule?
Let me see here. He did not say.
Doesn't matter. Her, folks. Remember that. Don't just put anything and say, Steve said abracadabra, it's going to work. No, no, no. You know, they change, especially with babies. You know, you got 7 years of growth on a mule and a donkey. So those teeth and that head's going to change. So when you train and build a foundation, always think 6 months time frame to build a foundation that's going to be firm in their mind. That's the greatest desensitizing you can do. But let's go back. Use a snaffle bit first because it's light. Use a double twisted wire snaffle bit, like I use in my Mule Riders Martingale. And then the next part then, as they progress over a 3-month time frame, they pick up that bit every day and they pack it, then you can learn the correct place to put the finished bit. So now the finished bit's a little heavier, put it in their mouth, let it hang down, not all the way down bumping the front teeth, but kind of halfway between the two. The mule will pick it up and put it where he likes it. One of the reasons that mule's getting his tongue on top of the bit is this. You're putting the bit on the same way every single time. Don't do that. Loosen up a few notches, let the bit hang down, pull the bridle off. When you put it back on, your bit is adjusted down low, put it up on him, sit there and watch him. He'll pick up the bit, he'll carry it, and then you'll know where to put it. Don't put 1 wrinkle, 2 wrinkles. That's fine for a horseman. You're riding a mule. So, and be sure to adjust it on both sides accordingly, okay?
Very good. I cannot wait to get that bit article out. Put a lot of time into that. We spent a lot of time with you, and that's going to be a really good one for people to watch. In the meantime, I just put a link into just one of the many videos that we've got of you talking about bits on the website there. So let's keep plugging away. Let's see here. We've got a question from where did it go? Ahmed Juma. Steve, you had mentioned in one of your videos not to look your mule in the eye when you pin hit with when in the pen with him. Can you explain when you can and cannot look them in the eye and why?
Gosh, I hope you didn't hear me say don't look them in the eye. I always say look them in the eye, because here's the problem. If you're looking them in the eye, they know exactly what you're saying. They're saying, listen to me. But if you look down and look back up, you're saying you want to be in their herd. So yes, you better look them in the eye. And I hope you can tell me what video that is, because that's not what I say. I always say look them in the eye. I always say don't look down, because if you look down, you're saying, can I be in your herd? You're begging, you're ducking your head, licking your lips. Can I be in your herd? So, You might have heard that incorrectly. I hope you did, because you always look them in the eye. Always approach the shoulder. Don't approach the head. And when you're going, you've got one eye on the shoulder, the other eye on their eye. And that's how you approach them.
Very good. Well, I'm glad we got that cleared up there.
Boy, yeah.
Ahmed, if you're watching here, and you can point us to where you heard that, I sure would love to be able to take a look and see if maybe we got a misspoke there or if something, but glad to get it squared away here. So a good question came in. We actually last season we answered this question a lot. This is the first time we've gotten this question this season for live streams. It comes from Ronald.
A string and put around the middle about where the cinch is going to go, front and rear, and then take that and take off half of that, and then take off another 10 inches, and usually you can come up with the amount of the length of the cinch. 36 in the front and a 38 to 40 in the back. There's only an inch difference on each side, so usually on a 15-hand mule, I'm going to pretty much say a a 36 on the front and a 38 on the back. But you can take the string and you can do it that way, and then take that measurement. Let's just say it's 6 foot, and then you come down to now it's 3 foot, and then you can measure your, take off another 10 inches, and you'll come up with your measurement for your cinches.
Awesome.
Or call me and I can tell you.
Yeah, give Steve a call. 602-999-MULE 6853, right?
Right. Very good.
All right. Let's see here. Nadine says, just got in from the barn, but glad I didn't miss all of this. Hello from New Hampshire. It's good to hear from you, Nadine. Let's see here. Memory Smith Harris. Memory here from Oregon. What should I do when my mule swishes her tail in my face as I walk around her?
Yeah. You're lucky she's not kicking at you, too. My thing is I would have the come-along rope in my hand, and she's basically saying, I don't like you there. I don't like you in that spot, but she needs to get over it. So having the come-along rope to where you can give it a sharp reprimand would help out a lot. That would be my first thing I would do. The come-along hitch is a good fix for lots of different things.
It is. And okay, so you know what? We just put a video online. It was on Facebook, and we put it on YouTube last week. And it's the video of you using the come-along rope to get that mule to let you hold her rear foot. Steve, It's been on for less than a week, I believe, and it's almost to 1,000 views. And folks are watching it. Folks are enjoying it. And what I think folks really appreciate about it, not only do they feel like, oh, okay, you know, even the professional has, you know, issues sometime, but I think also the methodical, wow, step by step, how to use that come along rope, how to use that little whip that you got there, that little tapper.
Quirk.
What is it called?
Quirk.
Quirk. It's to put those things together and get that end result. So yeah, that come along rope was pretty incredible for a lot of different things. So I'll put a link in the comment section so folks can go check out that video. It's very, very good. All right, let's see here. Next question. This is a follow-up from last week. We had a viewer ask a question about lateral flexions, and you had asked a question back. So the original question came along the lines of, got a mule question for you. Mule is wonderful on the ground. We've done hundreds of hours of ground work, and he's very good under saddle, really getting soft. But when he gets troubled by something, rather than spook in place, he wants to turn either to the right or to the left, and I'm just curious what I can do.
You know, that's actually called turn on the hindquarters, and reining guys and people working cattle like that sort of thing. It's a natural thing for them to do, move off the hindquarters. There's a lot of reasons for it. Sometimes something on the ground, sometimes the saddle maybe not being in the right place, but you can't change it. It's their way of escaping what they perceive to be a problem. So it's called rolling on the hindquarters. They roll right off. The only thing you can do is start perfecting your riding techniques, sitting in the seat. I know me, working cattle, if I can get one to turn real quick and go after a cow, it sure does save a lot of trouble. And they do it naturally. They just need a cue. So this is what I would do for you. What I would tell you to do is I want you to have your hands in direct reining position with the snaffle bit in their mouth, and you make them back up 2 steps, 1, 2, and then the third step, turn and go. So that's called, in other words, that plants the back end into place where the 2 hooves are in the back, and then they turn and go. That's called turn on the hindquarters. I think I've got that on my video. What's the name of it? Where I'm training with Dan Henry, and it's
remember Eric's last name from Mountain Ridge Gear. And so that's happening too often to me, Steve. I don't know if you feel it too.
Older you get, the worse it gets. So let's go back here. So what we want to do is teach the mule to turn on the hindquarters on cue. She's doing it because she perceives a problem. So here I'll turn on the hindquarters. And if you'll start teaching your mule a cue, then when it does happen, then you can go ahead and pick up your right rein and bring them back into place again, and reprimand them for doing it when you did not cue them.
Very good. So, Steve, unbeknownst to you, Steve, we've had a little bit of technical issues here. The internet, I think, is getting a little bit shaky. So, folks, if it pops off and comes right back, real quick, I just had one of my team members here get me a different internet connection. So we should be better. But if y'all have been noticing the video kind of glitching or stopping and starting, hopefully it's fixed now. We should be good. So I just wanted to mention that. I mean, we're coming towards the tail end here, which I guess it's better happen then than right at the very beginning. But I'm glad we got it going, because we've got another question that came in from Salmon Renee Crawford. It says, hello from Willow, Alaska.
Willow, Alaska,
yeah, I'm sure. Just got in from catching up on our 2 feet of fresh snow. There you go. Just 2 feet of fresh snow. You know, my brother lives in Anchorage, Alaska. I picked up my mom from the airport on Sunday evening, and she goes, well, I'll tell you what, I don't know how much snow they've actually gotten, and if it's been there for a while or if it hasn't, but every single morning I'd wake up. She's from the South. Every single morning I'd wake up, and I'd see that fresh powder, and I just thought, God bless. So she loved that snow up in Alaska. Just beautiful, beautiful time of year. So anyways, that's not why we're here. We are here to answer the question, after another snow falls tonight, we should have about 7 feet. It's kind of putting a damper on our training. Just got my come-along rope last week. Looking forward to using it. And the question that I had is there anything that we can do when nature begins to kind of take over and you can't get out there, you can't be consistent the way that you want to, you can't get the time that you want to put in? Is there anything that we can do to kind of make up for that?
Leave them go. Look, you don't have to train every day. And if you got to leave them for 2 or 3 months, that's okay. My wife's old mule and our other mules that we had here, you know, we'd go on these tours and we'd be gone 2, 3, 4 months. And the mules would stand, you know, they'd be fine. And as long as they've got a good foundation, and then when you do bring them out and you tune them up, they're going to be just fine. You do not have to train every day. And 7 foot of snow, who wants to be out there, you know?
Yeah. Very good. So Kayla Gooner, I didn't read her comment earlier, but I just read it now. It says, hello from Southern California, loving my saddle so much. It got a lot of compliments at a local play day I competed in. That's awesome. And my mule is so much happier these days. So that's really good to hear. We're glad. Good. We love getting reports like that. Bruce Lawless just chimed in and says, hello from Oklahoma. Hello, Bruce. Glad to have you here. Glad you're hanging out with us. Okay, so D. Witt has a question, very simple. Can you give me the pros and can you give me the cons of riding spurs on a donkey or a mule?
There is no cons, it's all pros. As long as that donkey knows they're there, these animals get to where they know you got them. They won't argue with you. They'll go ahead and do what you want to do because they know the spur's coming when you use the spur correctly. Spurs stay on my boots. I don't even take them off. Every pair of boots I got has got a pair of spurs hanging on there. And I have different spurs according to the different animals' bellies and where the length of my stirrups are and this sort of thing. I've got different spurs for different times, and that's really, really important. But I do not ride, nor do I suggest for anybody to not ride with spurs, because here's what happens. As soon as they can figure out that, like the lady with the mule wants to stand still on a trail, as soon as they figure out you can't back up what you said, it's na 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 and do what I want, you know. And you know, we tell our kids, so you're going to get a swat, right, Dave? You know?
Yeah, that's right. That's very good. Let's see here. Jack from Johannesburg, Michigan says hello. Hello, Jack. Glad you're able to hang out with us here. So the last question I think I got, folks, if you have any final questions, go ahead and make sure to put them in the comment section there. If we can get to them, we will. But the last question that I see here is from Sundance Kids saying, hey, from Pennington Gap, Virginia, do you have any books out, Steve?
I don't. I actually got a couple that I'm working on, and Tracy Merritt is helping me with one. And, of course, Barb is helping me with another. And so I don't really have, the books are more like, this is how I figured this out.
Yeah.
This mule did this, and I had to figure a way to help him, and that's how I learned this, that, and the other. So I've got that. But other than that, you know, I had a couple of different friends tell me the only reason you'd want to write a book is because that's the only thing you hadn't done yet, you know. So, yeah. So the videos, I find that when folks can visually see it, they can almost feel like they can touch it and then do it, and that's why I do the videos. But
yeah,
and we got lots of articles. We got enough articles to put together some books.
Oh my goodness! Well, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking, well, you know what? Put all those articles together. You've got yourself, you know, some shorter books wind up being about 20,000, 25,000 words. We've got one article on mule saddles, and that one article alone, I think, comes in at 9,000 words. The article that we're about to do on bits, I think that comes in around 7,000 or 8,000 words. And people might think, well, gosh, darn it, like, how can you say 9,000 words about a mule saddle? Well, the thing is man, Steve, you've heard it all. You've seen just about everything too. And so, you know, while there might be a small piece that pertains to someone, gosh, we mention it all because it's all happened, right?
Yep. There's just like Barb said earlier when I was talking to her about latigos. Who would have ever thought that you had to go into all these dissertations on the purpose of a latigo? You know, most people take it for granted. Oh, it's a latigo. I tighten up my cinch. No. That latigo has a multifaceted purpose on that saddle and that cinch. It does. And folks need to understand the intricacies of the bit of something as simple as a latigo in order to understand how it works right. Most of these saddles are rolling for two reasons. One, they're using a wool pad, the biggest reason. Two, look at your cinches. You'll see the cinch. I see it all the time on the internet. It drives me crazy. You see that the cinch is higher on one side and lower on the other. No wonder the saddle's rolling. You know, no wonder it's rolling. So that'd be my suggestion there. But that's what we ought to do, Dave. We ought to take all these articles, put them together, and make a book.
I like that idea. We can make that happen. We'll do that. Yeah. Okay, so I've got Gregory Scott Cooper from, let's see, Louisiana says, enjoy listening, Steve. So glad to hear that. That's nice, kind words. Last question for this stream. And folks, if you got any questions that we didn't get to or you forgot to put in or you're thinking about now, go ahead and you can put those in the comment section and we'll take a look. But Amy's question is, Nat's newest mule paces back and forth terribly when stalled, even when the other two mules are around. How do I stop it, or can it even be stopped?
Nat is a natural. Her Natalie is her name, but Nat, she is a natural. This kid, ever since I met her several years ago, which has been, I don't know, I think she was around 10 years old. This kid could touch a lead rope and make it speak. It was incredible. She's awesome. So to go back to the problem, you can't change it. This animal is the type of animal that's pacing back and forth. He's wanting something to do. That's what they do. Give me a job. I don't want to stand around in here. You know, so if I need to go work cows, I find that kind of mule and I ride that kind of mule. Forward going, really good when it comes down to getting out and getting something done, or just going a long trail ride forward moving. That's not a lazy mule. I like to see mules doing that. A lot of people don't like it, but if you want a mule to get a job done, pick that kind of mule. It's not a lazy mule.
Very good. And with that, we will say, hey, another successful live stream, folks. Thank you so much for hanging out. Steve, isn't it just awesome that we've probably had about 100 people tune in over the course of this live stream, and isn't it just awesome to be able to spend a little bit of time together?
Yeah, it you know, to help these folks out and they're learning. That's what I want to do, Dave. You know, as you know, I've quit doing the training here at the ranch. We may do a clinic or two here and there, but it's just I just don't have the timing and this sort of thing that you need to train a mule right. Now, can I help you with your problems? Man, that's what I'm going to do. So you're still going to see me do expos and this sort of thing. And I'll probably do a clinic here and there here at my ranch, but to do the 90 days. But this thing here, Dave, what's fun about this, just like Tracy Foley.
Tracy Foley, yeah.
Tracy Foley, you know. I helped her there, up there in Massachusetts. And people were able to see the difference. I never touched the mule. I said, Tracy, do this. Tracy, do that. And Tracy did it. And that's what I like.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing me riding the mule and the mule gets, you know, it does things and everybody, woo! No. If Tracy can communicate like that, folks, all of you can. And we're here to help you. You know, I don't know of any trainers doing this, Dave. Not to pat ourselves on the back. But, you know, you can use these same techniques, folks, on horses. And you can't believe how horses just kind of melt in my hands like butter now, you know.
Are you lowering your standards, Steve?
Yeah, I hate to lower my standards. But a good horse makes a good mule, and I got to say that for sure. But, you know, let's help them out, you know. Folks, get ready to come see me at the Hoosier, you know. I want to talk to you. I'm going to be walking around, spend time with me. There's other expos that are coming up. If you all know of any, I'd be happy to come there and do these expos and this sort of thing. But look at all of our videos, all of our YouTube stuff, all that free stuff that we're trying to give you to help. You better communicate with your mules and donkeys. They're wonderful animals if you just treat them with respect.
Yep. Fantastic. Well, on that note, we will say bye-bye. Everyone, thank you so much for hanging out. Be sure, before you log off, there's a little button, I believe it's down kind of towards the bottom, little button down there that says share. That is, if you appreciate that, these live streams, that is literally the best way you can show that appreciation and support what we're doing. Because what typically will wind up happening is we will, and we hear folks doing this all the time, we'll have folks who will watch 5 or 6 and they'll say, that's what I needed. I got it. And then they'll go out there and train, and they'll come back a few episodes later, and they'll have some more questions. Well, we want folks to fill in those gaps and be able to catch their answers so they can get out there and train. So even though you and I, we're having a good conversation here, we want to get more folks in here so we can ask those questions, get them in front of the right people, and then make sure that they're able to go out there and see some results. So be sure to share. That's the best thing you can do. Shy of showing up, we're super grateful that you're here, and we will see you next week. Sound good, Steve?
All right. See y'all next week.
See y'all. Happy trails. Bye-bye.